Hi, good evening. If you are watching the recording, which you are likely doing right now, if you are joining me live, hello. But if you're watching the recording, hello and welcome. It's so nice to connect with you. And as I said, if you are jumping on live, say hello. I don't want to leave it too long to get started on what I'm sharing today because I know that when you're watching back and or if you're watching a recording, that it can be a little bit frustrating if you have to wait for ages for it to get started. So I will give it a few minutes for the opportunity for Facebook to alert to you that I am live. I'm really excited to share with you this evening, and I want to be completely transparent and say that I am feeling all the feels tonight. I believe it's a full moon tonight, and I'm feeling quite tired, but I've got some really good content to share with you, so I'm excited to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this I'm like super pumped up because I get really excited by sharing these things. So let me just get my notes ready because I really want to make sure I stay on track and keep this nice and tight and succinct for you. So to kick off, I thought it would be great to just kind of tell you a little bit about who I am and what I've got to share with you tonight. So my name is Kate Cattle, as you can probably see, and I am a mindset coach, and I particularly work with women in the areas of preconception, pregnancy, and leading into birth, and then early motherhood. So this beautiful topic of transitioning into motherhood is something I'm very passionate about, and I want to keep it really practical tonight. And share some things with you that you can apply literally right away that will be able to support you on your journey no matter where you are at. So everything that I'm going to share with you tonight is universally applicable, which I'll talk a little bit more about after. But if there's anything that you love or that you want to apply, or if for some reason you've been drawn here to watch this live this evening, I want you to trust that because there are definitely concepts here that are applicable for everyone. I haven't got anyone on live with me yet, which is a shame because I did want to check the audio, but it appears that we're good. So I'm just going to keep running with it and cross my fingers. So yeah, as I said, my name is Kate. And the way that I got into this space of coaching and mindset in these areas was through my own experience, my own journey to motherhood. So I have a little boy who turned 2 yesterday, which I can't believe. But it was definitely not smooth sailing for little Flynn to land in our life. My husband and I spent 5 years trying to conceive, and it was incredibly a challenging time. I've got a little comment here. Can hear me. Amazing. Thank you, Jody. It was a really challenging time in our life. So it took us 5 years. We went through IVF unsuccessfully multiple times. We experienced pregnancy loss. I had a number of laparoscopies. It was a very challenging experience for us to get to the point where Flynn was in my womb and that I was actually growing a baby. So throughout that experience, I grew a lot. I decided to see that as an opportunity for my own personal growth. And of course, I resisted it at first, and at many times I resisted the growth. But I guess kind of the big lesson of all of that was that I needed to trust myself. I needed to build a relationship with myself, and I needed to honor my own body. So we had that 5-year experience, and then we had this final round of IVF where it was really tough. Like we got 1 egg, which is very uncommon. I was, I think I was like maybe 28 at the time. And we got the 1 egg and we transferred and it didn't take. And I was incredibly unwell. They'd dosed me up hardcore on all of the hormones and I was really unwell, and I ended up with adrenal fatigue. That was the second time I'd had it. And after all of that, I was just completely depleted. And I said to my husband, I'm done. Like that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. And I saw this look of relief on his face that he obviously was feeling very much the same, and was happy to kind of let that go with me, which was great that we were on the same page. But of course, it was a very tough decision to make. So then I decided, okay, I don't know what's next for us, but I'm going to invest the next 6 months in myself and supporting myself and allowing myself to grow. And so I did that. And in that time, I came into a space of what I call alignment. And obviously that's not a term that is unique to me, but it's something that I teach a lot about because I'm very passionate about what changes in our life when we live in a space of energetic alignment. So when we're in alignment, we feel our happiest, we feel our most on point of who we are, we feel our most connected to our truth. And our decisions feel very clear. You know, those moments, those days that you have where you're like, I just feel amazing today. Like for whatever reason I do, that is often due to alignment. And we all dip in and out of that at different experiences in our life, at different times in our life, sorry. But what happens is in those cases, it's by accident. So we might do a series of things that just, you know, incredibly land us in a place of energetic alignment. And we reap the benefits, but we don't really know how we achieved that or how it happened. What I'm talking about is actually focusing intention and time and commitment into the idea of being able to live in energetic alignment. And so that's what I focused on in that time. So I got really clear on the things that were serving me and the things that the things that were draining my energy and the things that were giving me life. And so in that time, that was completely where I focused. And I spent 6 months focusing on my growth. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, it was after that period of time that we conceived Flynn, and we conceived him naturally after all the experience we had. And the reason I tell this is because I learned firsthand the value of taking care of myself, of taking care of my energy. And when I talk about energy, I'm not talking about how energetic you are. I'm talking about the life energy, that life force that you have within. That's what I'm talking about. So when we take care of those things, we truly have the ability to up-level our life in whatever way we desire. So if there is something that you are craving more of right now, but you are struggling to draw it into your life, if that's a heartfelt intention, if that's something that you're feeling on the inside in here and it's not coming, it's likely got something to do with the path of alignment and that you're not in that space. So I wanted to talk to you about that and mention that because I feel like this has so much power in the motherhood space because we spend so much of our time out of our body in that we're giving and we're talking to our children and we're serving them and, you know, we're trying to be present and we're trying to give to them and all of the things around us, right? There's constant demands around us in this motherhood experience. So we often don't get the opportunity to check in and go, oh, hang on a second. Am I actually feeling good? Am I in alignment? And what am I actually going to do about it if I'm not? So, that was kind of something that I really wanted to share with you today. But I truly believe that the motherhood journey and this experience into motherhood is the most incredible opportunity to expand into who we truly are. And I don't know, this is my experience and this is also the experience of my clients. I really shouldn't say I don't know because I do know and I see this many times over that there truly is nothing that will take you more to your edges than motherhood can. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today is how you can support yourself through the transition of experiencing motherhood in that way, right? Experiencing the complete opposites of the spectrum as far as what motherhood can offer. So just before I dive in a little bit further, I just wanted to kind of preface by saying that there is absolutely not one single way to navigate the transition into motherhood. And I definitely don't claim to know what it is, if there were one or if there is one. But what I want to share today are some really simple and practical techniques that you can use to nurture yourself throughout that time. You know, whether you're in that time now or whether you want to save this video for later down the track, or even if you're beyond where I am at in my motherhood journey, I can guarantee if you approach this with a beginner's mind, there will be concepts or ideas or potentially a few words here that really resonate and support you with where you're at right now. So there are tools and absolutely, like I said before, universally applicable and applicable techniques that I'm going to share with you. So no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are conceiving, you're pregnant, you're birth postpartum, or you're way years down the track, you can absolutely use these to support yourself no matter where you're at. Yeah. So, as I was saying before, through my journey into motherhood, um, self-care became this really, really important part of the way I was living. And that truly has only ramped up as my son has gotten older. So transitioning from that, that pregnant stage into becoming a mother and all of the changes that brings, I perceived that that would be a small pocket of time and then that life would somewhat resume into its normal patterning, which if you are a mother, you know that that is completely crazy and that is not how it works. Um, when we become a mother, there is a part of us that needs to be released in order to be able to fully embrace who we are in this next season of our lives. And without the space to do that, without taking the time for ourselves, we literally allow ourselves to be stuck in the past. And there's a fantastic resource that I want to recommend around this called Emotion. It's a documentary. I am not sure if you can currently view it online for free. You may have to purchase that one, but it's called E-Motion, and it talks really beautifully about how past emotions can keep us stuck in the past and how that can be really inhibiting to us and our growth. So the reason why I think this is important is for many of us, we have this transition period where we are thrust into motherhood, and potentially we aren't giving ourselves the space to grow through the experience or to process whatever's coming up for us. So an example of this could be if you are having if you had your birth and there were some parts of that were scary or traumatic for you, and then you've got your baby and you've got to learn to breastfeed, and maybe that's a little bit challenging for you, but you find your feet. And then maybe there's some sleep issues around 6 weeks, and that's also a bit challenging, but you find your feet again. If you're not stopping to process these things along the way and allow yourself to move through them emotionally, they store in your body, they store in your system, and these are the things that erupt from beneath the surface when our partner packs the dishwasher incorrectly or just doesn't pack it at all. Those experiences that we have where we seem to just erupt and we know that it's not actually about the event that is happening right then and there, but rather about, something deeper. And so these are the things I'm really passionate about helping women to release, because they don't serve us, they don't support us. And if we want to show up as our best selves, which is so cliche, but if we want to show up in our light, in our alignment, and give the best that we can to our own life and to our families, then this is so important that we know how to do this. So when it comes to emotions, we are, and again, I'm speaking from my own personal experience and that of my clients, we live in a society that teaches women in particular, or not in particular, but I guess my personal experience and what I know to be true is we live in a society that teaches women to rush through how they feel. And I backpedaled on this a little bit because I have seen many people try to rush my son through how he feels as well. But in this case, I am speaking about us as women, as mothers. A lot of us throughout our childhood are taught to rush through our emotions, that we should run away from them, that they are not safe to feel, that they are they're uncomfortable, and that they are potentially bad, or that there is this good versus bad as far as emotion. So ways that this happens is when people say to us, "Oh, don't cry, it's fine," or "It's okay, stop crying," that kind of thing. This reaffirms to us that it is not safe and that it's not appropriate for us to, to feel our emotions, to cry, to experience anything but happiness and joy, I suppose. And I guess that was partially why, and I'm just going to put my desk down a little bit because the angle of the camera is hurting my neck a bit. This was why I wanted to preface with the truth of how I was feeling when I was showing up for this call, because for so many of us, you may be watching this, you may have even judged that. Like, why would she tell me that? Or why is she saying that? But for so many of us, we have these preconceived ideas of what emotions mean and whether they're good or bad, or whether we should feel them or shouldn't feel them, or we attach stories to our emotions. And so what happens with this is if we are taught throughout our childhood not to feel, then whenever something rises within us, we push it away. And so science tells us that when we push it away, it doesn't actually leave, right? It's still present in our body. And this is what I was talking about before with, the short fuse. Like if you're finding that you're erupting really easily, it's likely that there are some stored emotions beneath the surface that could be tended to. So my personal view is that I believe that a lot of the concerns that we see in motherhood are due to the fact that we do not take the time that we need to pause, to heal, to release, and to work through what rises inside of us. We don't talk about our emotions that much. We hold back, and we have this, this thought pattern or this belief that we need to fear them. So being able to shift that and being able to move the energy and move the emotion requires us to be present and to set the intention to be in a space where we are setting the intention to release them, right? So the way that I see emotions and the way that I love to teach about them is we have a spectrum. So on one end, we have the highest high, and then on the other end, we have the lowest low. And the reason I describe it in this way is because no emotion is negative or positive. They are all created equal. And yes, some of them are less enjoyable to experience, but they are all created equal, and they are all fleeting. Nothing will stay forever as far as emotions. I mean, some people might think that nothing is forever. I don't really know. But as far as emotion, they are always moving. They are always in motion, right? So as I believe it's Louise Hay says or said, it is energy in motion. So when we halt that process, we stagnate our own energy. And so we wonder why we feel, like we aren't full of life, or like we're stuck, or we're fatigued, or we're challenged. It's because we're stunting this process of the emotion moving through us. And so we have this spectrum, highest high, lowest low, not about good or bad. And so what happens is if we don't allow ourselves to feel the emotion that is on the highest high end of the spectrum, I can't remember which way I said now, but if we don't allow ourselves to feel what is on the highest high side of the emotion spectrum, what actually happens is we numb out to that, but we also numb out to the other end. So it's not one and like one or the other, they actually condense. And so our emotional capacity to feel becomes a lot more narrow. So we're no longer able to feel the highest highs or the lowest lows. We're stuck with this kind of middle range of emotions. And this is where we can feel indifferent, or we can feel flat or uninspired. All of those sorts of things are what we find when we are sitting in this kind of more center and limited emotional capacity. And so the way that we open up our spectrum again is we start to allow ourselves to move through the emotions and allow them to heal. So the way that they condense in like this, and the way that we block ourselves, is when we don't allow ourselves to feel, like I was saying before, they store in the body. So the process of an emotion, it actually goes through a rise and a fall. And so what happens is, say there's an incident with your child and it makes you feel really stressed and overwhelmed, and you start to feel the emotion rising, and you actually feel yourself kind of welling up a little bit, and you're like, I'm just at my wit's end. Like I can't deal with another toddler tantrum today. Like I am just so exhausted. For me, it's usually my son throwing food at me. The beautiful food I prepared for him, literally throwing it at me, because he's just not a big food boy. Anyway, but I know that there's something in your life that that it pushes your buttons, and if it happens repeatedly, you feel that emotion rise and it gets more intense. So I want you to kind of picture that right now. I want you to think about a time or a moment where you experience that kind of rising of emotion. And what we usually do is, as it comes up to the peak, we backpedal because it doesn't feel good. We pull back and we're like, no, do not want to feel this today. I am not in the mood. I don't have time. This is not a safe space for me to be feeling these things. So nope, I am not going there. And so we pull back. And like I said before, what happens is we store that emotion. So it gets pushed down and put to the side, and our subconscious decides that I'll just pack this here in the subconscious. And when we've got a spare moment, then we'll deal with that. But of course, we know that those spare moments don't come unless we set the intention and we get into action with releasing it. So what actually happens if we allow an emotional process to move through us is it comes to a rise and a peak, and then it actually drops back off on the other side. And so what is happening in this time is when we backpedal, we are almost at the peak. So we've almost done all of the work, but we backpedal because it doesn't feel like something that's safe, or that we're meant to feel this, or it feels intense. So we pull back and we miss that opportunity to allow that emotion to release, because once we come over the other side of the emotional mountain, it fades and it lifts and we allow it to go and release. And a really beautiful example of this, to speak of toddlers again, is a toddler. If you watch them have a tantrum, and if you allow them to have that process, you will watch the rise of emotion and you will feel it. You'll feel it going up. They're getting more and more intense. It's like really like, oh my goodness, I don't know if this can get any more intense. And it does. And then if you allow them to feel it, you'll watch them come back down the other side. The emotion releases, they calm back down, they find their feet, and off they go. And so this is a really beautiful way to look at it, because what happens with us is we backpedal and we don't allow that process to happen. So, and this is obviously something that I'm very passionate about allowing in my son as well, you know, giving him the space to feel his emotional process so it's not scary, and so that he's not constantly storing these emotions in his body. But where this becomes powerful in motherhood is if we can continue to stay on top of these processes and allow this to happen, we don't end up with such a short fuse. We don't end up so emotionally fatigued, because carrying around these, you know, like imagine it like a brick. Every emotion that you don't process is a brick in your backpack, and you carry that with you until it's processed. So you'll get to a point where it's so heavy that you can't handle it anymore. And so this is what I was saying before with the short fuse, where you just erupt, you drop all your bricks because you just can't handle it. And so if you can kind of look at it in this way of allowing this emotional process to happen and allowing it with the knowledge that this will pass, and it will pass quickly when you allow it. So, you know, if you're feeling emotional in the sense that you want to have a cry, if you can just allow yourself to fully cry and just be present and be in that and allow it to move through you, knowing that once you hit that peak, that it will start to drop down the other side and you will feel a sense of relief. It doesn't mean that you will never feel that emotion again. Of course you will, but you have stopped it from being stored in your system. And so you will feel that sense of, oh, things are going to be okay. Like I've got this release. I have allowed myself to move through this, and I can feel a sense of relief. So I really wanted to share that with you, because this was a very powerful practice for myself, and it's something that I'm always teaching my clients and supporting them with, because it makes such a difference if we can actually allow ourselves to move through what we feel. So as I said at the top of the call, I really wanted to give you some tips on what you can personally do to support yourself. There are so many other things we can do as far as leaning on support networks, joining, groups like this where you can connect with other women, which is so important, especially now when we can't be out, at our mothers groups and so on. But like I said, I really want to support you tonight with the things that you can do yourself and things you can apply right now. That emotional process I just shared with you, you can apply that tonight. Like you can literally do that tonight or tomorrow. A couple of other things that I wanted to share with you before we wrap up. And if you are on live, I think that this is probably the most inconvenient time for mothers. So I'm guessing that most of you are probably going to be watching back on the recording. If you are on live and you do have a question, then please pop it into the comments and I'm more than happy to help answer that for you. But there are a couple of other techniques that I wanted to share with you. So the first one is meditation. If this isn't something that you're already doing, I want to challenge you to do it for a week, once a day for 7 days, and just see if you notice a difference in how you feel. The key with meditation, I believe, is that you allow yourself to transform how you feel. It's not about being good at it. It's not about ticking a box. It's not about, Jodie's going to put a little one down. Bye. It's not about ticking a box or achieving a specific outcome or whatever it is. It is actually about just taking yourself through an emotional process, allowing yourself to have a transformation in how you feel. So you might go from feeling fatigued to inspired, for example. It's just allowing yourself the space to have that, because we just don't give ourselves that, right? We just don't as mothers. So it can just be 5 minutes. But obviously if you can have up to 20 minutes or more a day, it's incredible. But just introducing 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning, and 5 minutes before bed will have an impact on how you feel. So you can use an app like Insight Timer, or Headspace is a beautiful app. Otherwise, I know that there have been some beautiful women sharing in here as well. So I'm sure there are some great resources here around meditation that you could lean on. Something else that I'm very passionate about is journaling. This is a beautiful tool that you can use to allow yourself again to move through the emotional process. It's about having a transformation and allowing yourself to kind of go through that experience of feeling a certain way and then moving into feeling a different way. So this is something that if you aren't already doing, I highly recommend doing it. I find that journaling is a really great way to voice the things that we feel within that we would never express to someone else. It's a really beautiful way to share, I guess, or to get the things off your chest so that they're not circling around inside and rather they are released from your body. I'm all about letting go of the emotion, right? It allows you to release it from your body without being nasty or harming someone else or, putting that onto someone else. It's a really healthy way to process your own emotion. And then the other way that I wanted to share to help you to kind of process and to move through things yourself is spending time in nature. If it is an option for you right now, diving into the ocean is so incredibly powerful for cleansing our aura. A magnesium or Epsom salt bath is also amazing. But even just getting your feet on the earth, getting the sunshine on your skin and taking in a few beautiful deep breaths actually allows your body to reset and pause. So they're the tips and techniques that I really wanted to share with you today. If you are watching the recording back, please pop any questions in and I will swing back here and make sure I answer them for you. If you would like to learn more about what I do, you can come and follow me over on Instagram. It's just Kate_Cattle, but I will pop that into this post once it goes up onto the page permanently. And I also host a podcast called the Awakened Pregnancy Podcast. And we talk about lots of different topics, particularly around mindset. And I have some amazing guests on there. There's a new episode going live in like 2 minutes. But if you've particularly liked what I've shared today, I would recommend, and you might want to grab your pen, I would recommend listening to episodes 6, 7, 9, 13, 19, and 20. And I can pop that in here as well in case you missed that. It has been so lovely to share in this space. I really hope that you've gotten something from what I've given you today and that you're enjoying this beautiful Maternal Awakening Conference. I think it is just so incredible what Jess has created here, and a beautiful resource to keep in your tool belt for the future. So have a really lovely evening. I hope everyone's babies have gone to sleep with ease, or if not yet, that they're not far off. And I hope to connect with you all soon. Thank you so much for being here. Bye, beautiful women.